What's up, Net Soldiers? I'm the Alliance, and welcome back to the video. So today we're going to be doing a tier list video, and I've been requested to do videos like this for a while. I haven't actually done it though. So here we go. For the first tier list, we're going to do the Star Wars movies tier list. Now I've actually done Star Wars movies ranked already. I've done Star Wars reviews for every single one of these movies, so if you guys want to check those out, there will be links to those in the description below. I highly recommend it because in my personal opinion, I think it's some of the best stuff I've ever done. Okay, now with that said, guys, if you enjoy this video and you'd like to see more, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more videos. And I'm going to try to make this video shorter than usual, so I can't cover every part of my opinion for this. So like I said, I have all these movies reviewed, so go check those out in the description below if you'd like to see them. So, that said, let's begin. Okay, first one we're going to start with, of course, the original Star Wars New Hope. I gotta put that one at A, probably at A, definitely. It's an iconic film, not just because it is one of the best Star Wars movies still, but it is definitely just so good. It's got a magic to it. I mean, it's a little bit of a slower pace if you come off of Episode 3, but when you compare it with, like, if you put a Rogue One or you put a Solo in there, you kind of have like that little bridging gap that can kind of remedy that rushed feeling you get after Episode 3. You know, you have the action completely propelling you the entire time, and then you get to A New Hope and it kind of slows down. So you now have that little bit of a valley before you get back onto the mountain. So that's what I like about that. You can kind of use that for that if you wanted to. So like I said, if you want my full opinion on this movie, go check the description below. Oh, by the way, my daughter is downstairs with my wife right now, and my daughter is kind of yelling a little bit. So if you hear a baby yelling, she's just having fun. Okay. Next one we have Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and I'm gonna put that at B. It's a good film. There's definitely some issues with it. I'm sure you guys already know all the issues with the film, but I'll kind of state some stuff. This used to be my favorite Star Wars movie back when I was a kid, before Revenge of the Sith came out. I think it might be because Luke had a green lightsaber, which was awesome to me, but the ending fight scene was just so good with Vader and Luke, and all the different themes that kind of come to a head after the saga, which was great. And I would say that the biggest thing holding this film back is mostly the slow down part of like the Ewoks on Endor. I'm not a hater of Ewoks. I actually do like them, but I do feel like they got a little too much screen time, a teeny bit too much, you know, and that kind of held back from making this film an A tier for me. So with that said, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so next one we have Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and that one goes right over here. We're gonna put it in the C tier. I think it's a pretty mid-tier film. I know a lot of people will probably put this in a D tier or maybe even an F tier, but this is my argument for this. A big reason for me, I've actually watched this film in the past and I've turned the movie off halfway through because I just can't get through it. And what helped me through it this time, and what makes me like it more now, is I looked at Anakin Skywalker's story as more of I'm looking at it as if not that he's like a jerk, you know, just like a teenage jerk kid, you know, like I used to. I look at it more as like he is a very sad young man. You know, he doesn't really know his place in the world. You got to remember, when he was a kid, he was taken from his mother, and at the same time he meets Padme, who is his love, right? And so he is taken from these two people who care about him, and then he doesn't see them again for another 10 years. So you got Padme and his mom come right back into his life at the exact same time, pretty much. He's got this like rush of emotions that he's never had to really deal with before, and then his mother dies, you know. And it's one of those things where, like, if you look at it like that, the story for Episode 2, it ultimately becomes better in my opinion. Now, of course, there are a lot of other cons that I probably can't defend because, you know, you can't defend everything when it comes down to it, but I think if you change your perspective on Episode 2 just a little bit, it becomes a better film. And that's what I've done recently with my reviews, and that's why I think it is a mid-tier film. It is not a great film. I wouldn't necessarily say it's even like good, but it's not like bad like I used to think. So I definitely recommend, maybe if you feel this way about this film, maybe checking it out again because you might change your perspective. Plus the ending lightsaber fight is a big deal. I mean, choreographing wise, it's kind of like rough, but if we're going from what it means, like narratively speaking, it shows that Anakin has a lot of potential, but he still has a lot of arrogance. And then of course he gets beat by Dooku, and then in episode 3 we see him come back and he defeats Dooku. So it's one of those things where like it's a good example of to really mirror the future while also still retaining its own story and staying cohesive with the actual story. So that's what I like. Okay, so moving on to episode 7. I'm gonna put that one probably in the C tier. I think it's a little bit better than episode 2. I think there's a lot of things about that film which were good, but there's a lot of things that also dropped the ball. And I think that's probably the best way to even explain like the sequel trilogy as a whole. There's just a lot of cool things that totally could have happened that just didn't happen. And of course, it relied a lot on nostalgia compared to actually trying to tell a more interesting and another chapter into the story. And it is what it is. It's not a bad film. It's just very standard. And that's why it kind of feels like a retread of A New Hope. And that's why it's C on my list. Okay, next one is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I'm going to put this one... I gotta put it in the D tier. Not because it's bad, necessarily. It just doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie compared to the rest of the films that I've done so far. And this is a Star Wars movie tier list. So I'm not necessarily ranking them on how good of films they are. I'm ranking them as far as, how good of Star Wars films they are. And Phantom Menace definitely has some awesome stuff. Lightsaber fights, got the pod race, but there's just like some magic missing that I feel like Episode 1 probably should have had, especially considering when people watch these films, they're going to be starting with this one now with the, with more episodic people watching that way. So, I don't know, I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe that film in time will kind of gain more magic, but so far when I watch it, I find myself not getting tired of it, but I find myself just kind of like being okay with half of it. And where I feel like I should be like, this feels good, like you get with A New Hope. So, like I said, maybe this is me, but it's a D tier for me. Okay, now we're going to the most new film out of all of them, and we got Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm gonna have to put this one right over here. I think it's a very standard film. I don't think there's anything great about it. As far as, the middle of the tier movies that I've done so far, it's definitely the best in my opinion, especially with the sequel trilogy. So the way I'm doing it is like the farthest over to the left towards the letters is better than the ones that are further away from it. So it is the best on the C tier so far. There's just a lot of elements that I don't know if it's necessarily that film's fault, because that film had a lot to correct, and it had a lot to do because of Episode 8. So I'll talk about Episode 8 when I get to it, but so far, Rise of Skywalker is the best out of the C tier. All right, next one we have the holiday special. Wow. Guys, here's the thing about the holiday special. I actually have not seen it. I know, right? I'm going to be doing, I wanted to do like a special on it this winter, but I forgot to do it, and then I just, maybe this December I'll do it. So right now I just kind of have to put it, I can't label it. I was going to put it in the S tier because that's where it deserves to be, but I can't put it there. So I just haven't seen it yet. I'll definitely check it out though. Next one we have Rogue One, and I'm gonna put this one probably. It feels weird to put it here, but I'm gonna put it like right in front of Episode 1. I think it's a little bit better of a film than Episode 1, and I think the biggest reason for me is not because it's necessarily a bad film, but it's a forgettable one in my opinion. Well, this whole tier list is my opinion. It's just forgettable. There's a lot of elements that are really cool, and there are some memorable moments, like the Vader scene, of course, but it's just ultimately a forgettable film, and that's why it's here. I understand a lot of people love Rogue One, and that's awesome, but I'm just not a massive fan of it, so that's why it goes where it goes. Next one we have Solo. I'm actually gonna put this one probably. Okay, I gotta put it here. I can't put it in the D list because as far as a Star Wars movie goes too, I actually had fun with this film. The first time I saw Solo, I thought it was kind of okay, but when I rewatched it recently, I found myself really kind of liking the characters a lot more. There's a lot of cool, interesting elements that go into this film. I like the fact that it is just a standalone film that doesn't try to be super epic like a Rogue One. people said it's a smaller story, but it really isn't that small of a story. The Solo story, that is a small little space adventure story, and I like that. How the characters did good. I know that the actor Han is, he's not exactly the Han Solo we know, but considering this is 10 years before A New Hope, it's okay that he isn't that character yet because he has still time to grow. So as far as that goes, Solo goes there on my list. I'm going to skip someone down here. The next one goes to Clone Wars, the movie, and I'm going to put that one probably right here. It's not a terrible film, but my biggest thing about it is that it feels like a TV show that was turned into a movie, and like the pacing wise just doesn't feel right. Now, with that said, the TV show I actually recently started watching. If you guys haven't seen my videos recently, I started doing like a complete Star Wars, the Clone Wars explained video where I'm going over every single episode and just kind of like telling the main plot. So if you guys want to check out that video, I'll leave that in the link below as well. But like I said, it's not a bad film. It's just not really a film, and so that's why it's probably going to be the worst on my list. So as far as things go, we have Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and Revenge of the Sith left. I'll tell you this right now: there is no Star Wars movie. There is no movie that is just completely just an awful movie altogether. There also is no perfect Star Wars movie in my opinion. Not yet. There could possibly be one. So the S tier is pretty much like perfect for me. So I'm just going to ruin the whole S and F tier parts of this video so far because there's not going to be a movie in there. But the question is, where do the rest of these go? So let's go to Empire Strikes Back. This one definitely has to go right here at the front of A. I think it is a more superior film to Episode 4. Of course it is. It does a great job of, progressing the story and showing where the characters have become since Episode 4. Now, with that said, there are some lacking elements. Like, for instance, pretty much the whole arc between Leia and Han and Chewie when Luke is out on Dagobah. That entire scenario and stuff going on in those scenes, they feel very I can't say weak because it's not necessarily weak, but it feels like filler, and I don't necessarily like that. I think a lot of people overlook that. It feels like filler in order to have Han and Leia kind of care about each other more and fall in love more, which is okay. I just feel like they could have been doing something more interesting. At least they're doing something though. There are parts in these films, like Attack of the Clones probably being the best example. When people are falling in love, they're just kind of standing around liking each other. They're not actually like doing stuff. So at least they're doing things in this film. But like I said, I actually said this in my episode 5 review, but people often overlook the fact that whole like space worm scene is kind of just filler. There's not really a reason for that besides to have Leia and Han, be together, but they could have been on more an important mission instead of just, being chased down by the Empire. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's how I feel. Okay, now we're going to get to Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. People have questioned where I put this one, and I'm going to tell you guys this. I actually lied to you. Turns out there is only one S tier movie, and that is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. No, I'm just kidding. No, I can't put that one. I could never do that. Okay, so as far as Last Jedi goes, I'm going to probably put it... I have to put it here. Here's the thing. I have to put it, it's a little better than Clone Wars, but if we're talking about a movie story from like Last Jedi versus Episode 1, The Last Jedi is a much better constructed film. But if we're talking about Star Wars movies, which that's what I'm doing a tier list on how the Star Wars movies, rank against each other. The Last Jedi is not a Star Wars movie to me. It kind of feels like if it was its own standalone film, it would be a great film. But since it is Episode 8 of the story, and it portrays a lot of things that the previous film set up, I can't put it any higher than what it is. So it is officially a D tier movie for right now. Maybe it will change in the future. Maybe something will come out eventually. Like, I think personally for me, Episode 9 was, of course, built to kind of, you could say, save the franchise or make Episode 8 better. And I think it did succeed in that notion. So Episode 8 I actually like more because Episode 9 is out now and kind of fixed a lot of the issues with that film. Now, like I'm saying, if you love The Last Jedi, if you hate it, that's perfectly fine. because that is a very divisive film. Probably the most divisive film out of this entire list. But for me, I don't hate it. I'm just kind of more disappointed about all the things it could have done. And that's just how I feel. So, yeah. And then we get to Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And I would probably put it up here at the S tier, but it's honestly, it's not a perfect film. There's a lot of different cons with that film. I think people, when they watch my YouTube channel, a lot of them think that I just like love Revenge of the Sith because I love it. And the truth is, I actually do think it is a very, very good Star Wars film. From a film standpoint, it's definitely not as good as Episode 5 or 4. But if we're talking about Star Wars movie, 100% that is Revenge of the Sith. There's constantly action moving forward. The story is actually very cohesive, and the characters you care about and the things that go on in it. I always like the fact that Episode 3 kind of has you on the edge of your seat. You know, it's always got you thinking. It's interesting because even when it's the slower points of the film, you're still kind of like preparing for what's happening. You know, and there's this part of you, especially when you get to the part where like Anakin betrays Mace Windu right before it happens. You know what's going to happen, right? But there's this part of you inside that thinks maybe he won't turn to the dark side. And it's cool that a film can actually do that. And I thought that was pretty cool. So as far as things go, this is my tier list for all these films, guys. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please like, subscribe, and turn notifications. If you guys want me to do more tier lists, let me know in the comments below. Also, like I said, if you want to hear all my full opinions on every single one of these films, there are links in the description below. I have my ranking down there, I have all my reviews, and I also have my Clone Wars explained videos down there, so definitely check those out. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you later. Peace.